Hello, my name is Jamie and welcome to this week's tutorial. This week we're going to continue on with the modelling the raptor. We're going to focus mainly on the legs. That would probably just be the main focus of this part. We'll add in the toes, sort of define the feet, the sort of ankle bit and the knee, and start defining some of the muscles and stuff as well. And sort of bringing the legs up to a sort of a higher resolution. We won't focus on the arms or even block them in yet, because we'll probably add in some extra geometry along the way, probably up and down there a little bit. And so it's probably best to just wait until we finish detailing the legs, because the arms, sorry, the arms aren't sort of as big and in need of detail as the legs. So yeah, that's why I'm focusing on the legs first. So we'll start off by going to edit mode and just sort of defining the toes. I'll just make this follow that contour a bit more. We'll probably do a lot of reshaping, and now that's not very good for what we need. What we need is enough polys to add in 2 toes in the front and then 1 in the side, and at the moment it's just there's only really enough for 1 toe in the front. So what we can do is sort of even things out a bit, so it's looking a bit wonky. About there, and then I'll just select these 2 faces, extrude, and then right click to cancel transformation and scale it in the X quite a lot, and then scale it in the Z a little bit, and that's given us these 2 sets of polys here that we can use to model the toes off. I'll go back to vertex mode. Again, that's just with Control Tab, that little menu comes up. And I'll just sort of rotate and scale the whole thing along Z a bit. And sort of, you can sort of see there's sort of a joint here where sort of the end of the toe and the toenail come out, and then there's sort of another joint probably about here. So I'll set the base of the toe at the base of that joint and just sort of get it to follow along like that. I'll just sort of start to shape the foot around. Now it does look a bit crap in the middle, but that's fine for now. It's good to have sort of a couple of polys in between sort of fingers and toes anyway. It just sort of gives that little bit of space that you don't normally sort of see in, especially in low polygon models. You don't generally get this poly sort of the poly limit to sort of waste putting stuff in the middle, but when you're doing a nice high details model, it's perfectly fine to add in this sort of stuff. So we will scale in the X, just this whole little area, just to give us a bit wider and sort of closer to being round. Of course we don't want anything to be perfectly round because this is a organic creature, so nothing's going to be perfect, but sort of get the shapes in the right places and everything. So we'll start modelling a toe, and we can see if I extrude there to where that first joint is, and then extrude again to where the sort of end of the toe, where the toenail begins. Now if I want to add in that little bulge, it's quite easy. I'll add in an edge loop here, an edge loop here, and just select those two vertices and just move them up along that z-axis a little bit, and that gives us this nice curvy bumpy bit. We can bring that down to sort of more closely match the reference, and there is a bit that goes up there as well, so that's fine to look like that for now. All of this is looking pretty square along there, so what I'll do is even just grab all of that and bring it in. Just to round that out a little bit, and even grab all that, bring that in that way, and bring all that in that way, just a little bit, just to help round that off. And then on the other side, we can bring all of these 5 out to make sure that side is also nice and rounded, and just reshape things as they need to be done. You probably do want to go in along, especially along these top 2 rows of vertices, and just sort of nudge them out of place, give them a bit of shape. Doesn't have to be any specific changes, but just something to make it look a bit more interesting rather than just boring straight shape along there. So to do the nail, I will grab these 2 faces, excuse me, extrude and then right click to cancel the transformation, scale it in a bit, not too much, probably about that much, and then extrude and move it so it follows the normal backwards a bit, and then extrude so that it sort of comes all the way back up to sort of where it exits the toe, and that, when we add in a subdivision modifier, that will create a nice sort of rounded lip around the nail. And then I'll extrude probably out to about sort of half the length of the nail again, scale in the Z, rotate it a bit maybe, rotate along the normal, just grab that X and just rotate it like that, and then extrude it out to the tip of the nail, again sort of start to rotate. As you can see, it's already still got the same width as the rest of the nail, or the rest of the foot and everything. So select this end, and probably just best to select 2 vertices that are connected like that, just scale them in, and create a sort of point for the toe nail, and put that little bit on the point. So we started to get a point there, and I'll bring that, I'll just did a loop cut, and I'm going to bring it fairly close to the actual end of the nail, and then bring it back and give a bit of curve on the nail, but it will sort of preserve that shape that we sort of started. So we'll continue sort of scaling these in a bit, just with S on the keyboard. Let's scale that in. And we've got a fairly mean looking claw. Maybe bring that bit forwards a bit. And you do want generally the under edge is the sharp part, so I'll scale all of those really close together to sort of create that sharpness. And then sort of allow the top to be all rounded off. It's looking a bit wonky there. bit. Bring that out a bit and just sort of allow it to flow back out. So that looks, yeah, that looks pretty good. It's probably best to model this second toe on its own and just start from the base and extrude it all out again. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy this one. So I've selected that much. I've selected up to this loop, and then I can just hit Control plus. Say, I'll just do it the once, and then do Shift D to duplicate. Go to the top view and sort of rotate it, and rotate it this way a bit. Scale it up. And just sort of shape it how you want it. I'll just delete this edge. I can start to just select two vertices and hit F. That looks okay. That bit looks fine. I'll just bring that out a bit. And with right click, should be able to select most of that inside edge loop. Just shift right click there, and then alt shift right click to select that other one, and you can just hit F to join or create all those faces. So now we've got two nasty looking toes. We just need a third one coming off the inside of here. So probably the best starting point is going to be this face here. So we'll extrude it. It doesn't need to come out very far. Let's turn that to local. But we will probably just create an edge loop through there, and that will allow us to sort of create a rounded shape. So these two vertices, scale them in a bit. And that sort of just gives us the sort of base of the toe to extrude out. I'll probably bring this in a little bit because I don't want to be too big. Then bring this out, and that's probably going to be sort of the bottom of this toe is more going to be part of the foot than it is part of the toe. It's the best way to think about it, just because it's all going to be sort of sitting on the ground together. Create a fairly rounded bottom. Just tweak that in places. Just tweak it to how sort of you like the look of it. There isn't a lot of good reference just specifically on that toe, so just sort of wing it. Get the right idea. You can see you're looking at the reference image. It's actually, the nail on it is huge compared to that on the normal toes. So just from this view, I'm going to rotate it, the base of that toe, and then I'm just going to scale it up quite a bit. And just sort of extrude that up to sort of match the end of the sort of the flesh part of the toe and where the nail starts. I go into front view, rotate that. I've accidentally caught that on the middle of the mirror modifier, so just turn off clipping, move it, and then turn back on clipping. So I'll bring that in, because this toe just generally rests sort of in with the foot. So we've got that there. Maybe add in a couple of edge loops. Scale that one down a bit, scale that one up a bit, or maybe do it the other way around. Just so there's a bit of variation in the shape. I'll go to vertex and select those. Just do Control plus just once, and then do it again. Another Control plus. Just sort of bring the whole toe in a bit to sort of match the reference a bit better. And then I'll go to face, select, and then again, as before, extrude, right click, scale in a bit, scale down, scale back up, oh sorry, extrude down and extrude back up, extrude, probably, yeah, up to there is about fine. Do another extrude, rotate, move it with G for grab, scale it down a bit, extrude again, rotate, this time scale it all the way down, so you've got a nice pointy claw. And of course the more defined you want the toe, or the toenail, the more divisions you're going to have to put in, so I'll put that one in, rotate, bring it up, that's got a bit more curve to it there, and it clearly needs another section there. And I'll just, in vertex mode, just those two, just pull them out. Sort of shape these to be a bit closer to the shape of the toe now. So that looks okay. So now we've got a couple of badass looking toenails sticking out. And it is sort of personal preference, also looking at references you've got and stuff, to sort of decide exactly how you want this toenail to look. To me, it looks like it is sticking out a little bit too much from the top, so I will just, I should be able to just select that tip and then just do Control plus, say that much, and then just in the front view bring that down a bit, and then Control plus again, bring that down a bit more. And if I want to add a bit more shape to the fleshy part, I'll just bring an edge loop sort of up to about there, and then another, insert an edge loop there, scale that up a bit to get that sort of more fleshy look. You can do that to the other toes if you want as well. And then we're sort of going to want to probably do some reshaping and remodeling of most of this foot. Probably about, bring this back a bit as well. And in the front view, that's looking a bit wonky. So what I'm thinking is I want this sort of edge here to sort of flow up through the rest of the leg, and give us some more to play with, especially along the rest of the leg and stuff. So I'll just delete those two edges, and then what's gonna happen is it's gonna flow all the way along those edges and back down to meet up back in the middle again, any edge loops that I add in. So I don't really want to cut this, so what I'll do is I will delete that edge, if I just add in one for now, because that does create quite a lot more geometry. I should be able to work with that. And then add in an edge loop here and bring it down to about there. Actually, I'm thinking that's a bad idea. So yeah, I just undid those last two loop cuts, but what I am going to do is just loop cut here, the second one that I was just doing, and then go into face mode, extrude this guy, and then right click to cancel, scale it in, and then just delete this face. And what that allows us to do is sort of continue that flow. So we've got a bit more definition in the foot now, which is mostly what I wanted. And if we want to, we can just later on add an edge loop along the middle, if that's where we want some more definition. I just sort of don't like the idea of creating all that extra geometry right now, when we're not really looking at that area. So I'm going to do the same at the back. Extrude, right click, scale it down, delete the face, bridge those, and we've got 4 vertices there, 4 vertices there we can fill in, and the same here. F. They should be filling. Oh no, of course not. I've got an extra. So I'll just, again, another edge loop through there. F to join those two edges, F to join those two edges. Oh, right click, oh, shift right click, F, and everything's filled. What this allows us to do, if I just bring these together by scaling them a bit, we can sort of hint at sort of extra anatomy behind everything else that's going on. Sort of hint that there is sort of a bone coming through here. We may need a bit more geometry to be able to do that as well as possible. Scale this in a bit. That looks okay. Just bring those up, scale them in. So that will give us a bit of extra just detail, for it will look good when we turn on the subsurf modifier. Just sort of try to make the edges nice and smooth. That looks okay. You could possibly do the same on the bottom, although that's just the bottom of the foot, so it doesn't get looked at a lot, so don't worry about spending too much time. Unless of course you're doing a specific shot in whatever you're working on. It requires the bottom of a Velociraptor's foot to be in full frame, then you might want to spend a bit more time detailing it. That looks okay. So we've got ourselves some raptor feet with nice toes. So I'll just, I think that's my little folder. So I will bring it up, say this image here. This is just one that I've pulled off Google. Just gives me a good front look. A good front look at this leg here. So just to make sure I sort of get the shape correct. The first thing I want to do is pull this foot out a bit. Just pull those out a bit and make them look a bit more balanced. like he's standing on his feet. So yeah, we got that. Now the feet sort of are quite wide, but they do taper in quite quickly. Following this reference. Just search for Velociraptor in Google Images, and this should come up. There's loads of good images. I think there's several with a good view of the leg. That's just the one I'm choosing to use for now. Maybe add in a couple of edge loops to allow us to sort of scale this one up a bit. Maybe scale that one up just a tiny bit, just to get this a bit more even sort of flow. And it looks like the sort of oh no, that's looking at the knee. So you've got to be careful because this bit's the ankle and this bit's the knee, so we can add in some knee geometry. It's sort of easy looking at the actual reference we've got here. So I'll add an edge loop above or below the knee here, and I've sort of brought it up to that point there, and then I will add an edge loop in there as well, bring it down to about the same point, and just bring those in. And then all I'm going to do is merge these at the center, and at the center. That's just with Alt-M for merge, and probably this third one as well, or fourth one, just to make that even. That sort of gives us this the geometry for this shape. I'm just going to select that and hit Alt-J to clear those triangles, so we keep it all quads. And that will give us sort of a little bit to when it comes to animation and rigging and stuff. Sort of a bit of extra geometry in the knee area. We can always extrude extra geometry in there, or create edge loops to create extra geometry in there. That just sort of gives us a bit more, so that when the knee itself bends, so if I select all that, it's perfectly fine to do this whenever you're modelling. Sort of select the leg that's gonna, part of the leg that's gonna bend, and then rotate it and sort of move it back so that it's at about the point where it would have rotated. Maybe rotate it a bit more. Actually, there is an easier way to do this. So we want it to rotate it around the knee, so I'll put the 3D cursor there and just hit period, and then that will sort of give us a pivot around which to rotate. So we can see the rest of the leg is fairly smooth in here. It needs a little bit of extra geometry just for definition, but the knee shape generally holds, and you probably add a little bit of influence to those vertices as well, so they'll rotate down and through. So for now that looks fine. We'll add an edge loop probably there, bring that out, another edge loop in here, bring that in, just sort of follow the contours, bring those in a bit, bring that up to there, and another edge loop in there, because that's fairly defined as that sort of shape there. Just sort of bring these forwards a bit. Bring that back a little bit, and bring that back a bit. Just sort of round those out. And that loop is quite clearly there. That looks about right. Sort of getting to the end of our time, so what I will do is, just thinking about this ankle, it's pretty much just a reverse knee, so it's probably best to just add in, say, 2 edge loops there, start merging again as before. Let's sort of bring these polygons out, or by polygon, and sort of just smooth things out a bit. Comma to stop transforming around the cursor. And to make sure there's no triangles there, just you can just do an edge loop across that face, and then Alt J. That looks about okay. It does look a little bit wonky, so just select those two faces and rotate them a little bit, bring them in. So yeah, we've got a bit of a sort of reverse knee there, a knee there. There's a bit more shape to the rest of the legs. Just sort of start to define those shapes there. You can see that's clearly not following everything that's going on. So bring that in, bring those back, bring that down to there, then add in an edge loop to give us that, the rest of that foot shape. Just move things around a bit to create some interesting shapes as well. We do want a lot more of that shape to come from the back rather than from the front, although that looks completely wrong. Because we want a fairly strong calf muscle that can be defined. And there's sort of the sort of skin rests on the bone along there, whereas there's a great big, all of this is all just muscle. So you need to sort of think about that, make sure you get the shapes sort of right. Don't always worry about sticking 100% to any references and stuff. For now on the legs, I think that's going to do for this week. And probably next week we'll move on to some arms or possibly the head. I'll probably say the arms. They're probably the easiest part to go ahead with for now. So yeah, we'll move on to that next week. And until then, good luck and have fun.